And welcome back, everybody, to the Podcaster Nation. That's right. I said welcome back because I know you were just listening to our stuff and you came back because you wanted more. Well, you know what? We have a lot more for you. We have a fantastic host with us today. Folks, you know this is the podcast that's about podcasters, it's for podcasters, and it's done by podcasters. This is the place where the rising tide raises all ships, folks. So let's get sailing and introduce our guest today. This lady has four podcasts going on, the Teresa Blaes Show, Unresolved Life, the Equipped podcast, and Blaze and Gutch, which sounds like it's about football. We're going to hear some more about that later on. She's also the author of several books. The one that's coming out soon is called Protected: Stories of Survival, Faith, and Redemption. I'm going to let her tell you about the other ones, and we have a ton to talk about today. So, folks, please welcome to the podcast, Teresa Blaes. Teresa, how you doing?
I am doing really good. How are you, sir?
Oh, I am absolutely wonderful. Better than I deserve, for sure. But
Amen.
yeah, amen. I love what you're doing here. And before we dive into all this stuff, and start talking about everything that you're doing, which is really incredible, Teresa, just tell everybody, who is Teresa Blaze? What are you about? And tell us who you are.
Who am I? I would say first of all, I am a wife. I'm a mother of, and I'm raising a family of one daughter and three cats, which makes things real interesting when your daughter has special needs. So,
Oh, okay.
um, I'm I'm blind, and my husband is partially blind. So, our family is really interesting. I'm a serial entrepreneur. Um, I'm a certified 100x coach. I'm also a Kingdom Life coach, which means I help people find God in their story. And then my husband and I, we run a podcast production company called Kadosh Media Productions. And so what we do is we help produce podcasts, whether they be audio or video, and then we also do book publishing.
Wow.
So, needless to say, and then as you can tell, I'm also getting into public speaking because I'm doing this book launch. So it really means that life is busy.
It sounds like it. I didn't even know about the production company. So, I mean, that's on top of everything else that I found out about you. I mean, every 5 minutes I'm talking to you, I find out you're doing something else. My goodness.
Yeah, well, when God tells you to do something, you listen.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. When you're called, you answer. I understand 100%.
Exactly.
That's great. All right, Teresa. Now, let me just start with this because I know you're very active in your church and with your ministry.
Yes, sir.
What can you tell us about that?
Um, so I came to Christ as a teenager. I grew up in a very broken home, and so I was the only Christian in my family. But God has shown himself faithful. It's been a rough road, but he's been faithful. And um, as far as the ministry that I'm involved in now, um, it's related to the Protected book. You see, he asked me to write the Protected 5 years ago. And at the time, I had just come back to him because I walked away after losing my mom to an opiate overdose and or suicide, I don't know which, and my sight in the same week.
Oh my gosh.
And at that time, I was fed up and I was like, God, I'm done. Because I had already gone through enough stuff related to surgeries and abuse and some other things. And I was just like, God, no, I can't do this. And so I walked away from him. And he brought me back, which in itself was a miracle. He asked me to write the book, and I was like, no way, that is not happening. We're not touching those skeletons. You can just keep those locked in their box. We're not doing that. And then he said, if you're not ready to write the book yet, would you at least start a podcast? And I said, yeah, I think I can do that. And that's where Unresolved started.
Wow. Okay. So
And
Unresolved is your journey?
yes, Unresolved is the podcast where I focus in on answering some of life's most difficult questions. So I tackle the stuff that makes the church uncomfortable.
Okay.
And I mean, I remember going, well, I've got questions, and if I have questions, then so do other people. And so instead of me just trying to get past the churchianity answers, what if I bring the questions to the mic?
Hmm. How has that gone
And
for you? Yeah,
it has been gone incredible. If I might share one story because of the show,
please.
I released a show with a guy who had committed or whose mom committed suicide, and we were just talking about, wrestling through that process of how do you deal with it and all that kind of thing. And a week later, at the time when I released the show, it was my very first show. Um, and at the time, I was scared half to death. Is anyone going to listen? Is anyone going to do, is this even, I don't know, is this even God? I don't know if I'm doing this right. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm trying, you know?
Hmm.
And so a week later, I get an email from a lady who had been sent the show. And she basically says, I was sent your show by a friend. And she goes on to tell me her story. And it was pretty horrific. It was pretty gnarly.
Mm.
And she goes, because of your show, I'm not going to kill myself.
Oh, wow.
Wait, what? Wait, okay. I don't know what to do with that. And so what that really instilled in me is this, and this is, I really want to hit this home with with whoever's listening here. You don't know who's on the other side of that microphone, and you don't know what they're going through or where they're at. Because of my podcast, someone is still alive.
That's amazing. That is amazing. That's such a great point, too. We have no idea who's out there, needing something at that moment when we're saying it.
Mm-hmm. In
Yeah.
fact, I believe podcasting is the most intimate form of communication because you're allowing they're allowing you into their ears for
Yeah.
a set period of time.
Yeah. I could not agree with you more. I love that part about podcasting. So I hear what you're saying. That this is the Unresolved Life podcast that you're talking about still, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's amazing. Wow. Um, yeah, okay. I mean, that's you just took my
Yeah.
breath away with that one. I'm not usually at a loss for words. So,
Trust me,
um,
that's when God showed me you have a ministry that I've given you. Steward it well. Okay.
nice, nice.
Okay. Now I get it. I get what you're doing, Lord. Okay,
Right,
I'm in. Let's go.
right. How does it feel to have that kind of responsibility?
Why does the Bible say that you ought not to be a teacher? Because you will be held to a higher standard.
Good answer. Really good answer. I love that.
You
That's
know,
amazing.
I'm like, Lord, I don't want to lead your people astray. I'm doing my best to answer the call. And every single interview I do, every single show I do, I am very cognizant of the fact that for some people, I might be the only Bible they will ever read or
Hmm.
listen to. And for others, maybe I'm doing a show on exactly what they need. And so my thing is, I am doing this because he asked for my yes. And I know what it's like to play Jonah and not do what he wants. And that never ends well. And
Right.
so I will always, and whatever he asks of me, I will do.
Yeah. Like I said, when you're called, you answer. I mean, that's just how
Yeah.
that goes for sure.
Yep. Exactly.
So it's very evident how important your faith is to you in your life. I know that there's a note here about how God protected me from abuse and violence, and how He can protect you too.
Yes, sir.
That's I'm assuming based on your personal life, and is that what the book is about?
So the book, yes, I spent, like I said, it's been a 5 year journey. I spent 4 years telling him no, and 1 year going, all right, I'll write the book.
Okay,
And
you knew He was
I,
going to win.
uh, I knew, but I was stubborn. And, he put people around me that kept going, you really need to write this. You really need to write it. And it's not just because God's asking you, it's because you need healing from writing it.
Hmm.
Uh, to kind of give you an idea, my story that's related in the book, um, It starts as I was a baby. It actually starts when I was born. They didn't believe I would make it past 6 months because I had a whole bunch of medical issues.
Mm.
Often when I go to a doctor and they ask, "Can you give me your medical history?" I go, "Too much to list."
Okay.
Uh, and so my mom at the time, knowing that they believed that I wouldn't make it past 6 months, went into a chapel to pray. And she said that there was a man that joined her. It was an older gentleman, and he had the clerical, like a chaplain collar thing on, like a priest.
Hmm.
And he knelt down next to her, and he began to pray with her. And she said she felt an almost indescribable peace. When she went up to the nurse's station and described this guy because she wanted to thank him, they said that no one by that description works here at this hospital. I believe that was an angel. And the Bible actually says that you ought to be careful when entertaining strangers because you might be entertaining angels unaware.
Wow. Okay.
Um, my story from there, I was always at death's door. I've had over 8 heart attacks. Many of them when my mom was doing CPR just to keep me alive, waiting for the ambulance to get there. I've had over 200 eye operations, plus brain surgery, open heart surgery, cleft palate surgery, and many others.
Wow.
Anytime I went under the knife, I had what you call I have sleep apnea under anesthesia. So I always took my life in my hands when I had to have surgery. And that was just one part of God's hand in my life, although I didn't know it at the time. You see, I could have died at any moment. And that's not counting uh the other ways that the enemy tried to take me out, which I believe he did. I ended up my mom, despite her courage and her willingness to take care of me and everything that she did, she also had a propensity for finding abusive men. And so um I dealt with a lot of domestic violence, including being the witness to a murder of my own sister. Um, I also dealt with some physical abuse of my own. And so this book is that journey. And there's a lot more to it, but this book is that journey. And it talks about my story and how I met God, but he had to come and chase after me. He had to come and find me because I was not looking for him. I was angry at him. I wanted nothing to do with him. But he put me at a place where I had no choice but to admit, yes, you're real. Yes, the supernatural is real. And yes, I want to follow you.
My goodness. I mean, I I don't think anybody would be able to blame you for feeling that way, of course, with everything that you've been through. How did you find God again after going through all of that?
Well, it was actually when I was a teenager. Um, you see, I was going to a school for the blind, and that particular school was built on an Indian burial ground. And so there was always the ghost stories. And I kind of just passed it off. Yeah, yeah, whatever. Okay. And then I was out with my friends one night, and there was a dorm and it had a light on. The thing is, that dorm wasn't supposed to have a light on because it was supposed to be empty. And the way that school worked is that you stay in the dorms during the week and you go home on the weekends. Well, naturally, a dorm with a light on that shouldn't be on catches our eye. So we walk over and we go up on the porch and we're standing on the porch talking, look in the foyer, don't see anything in the foyer. At the time, I still had my sight. Um, or partial sight, or, as good a sight as I ever had.
Okay.
Um, And so I'm standing there and I'm talking to my friends, and I heard a female, echoey, ethereal voice say, children. I'm a little freaked out at this point. I'm looking over at my friends going, you guys didn't just hear that, right? They're like, yeah, we did. I can tell you there was a spirit of evil that and a outright fear ran down my spine. And I was just like, I'm gone. And I remember running. I ran as far and as hard as I could. I've never been so scared in my life. But the thing is, why is that important? Because God had to use that to show me the supernatural is real. What are you going to do with it?
Hmm. Wow.
I believe that was a demon. I do not believe in ghosts. Uh, Ghosts are nothing more than demons posing as dead relatives. It is the ultimate scam. Okay, and so here's how so I've got that in the back of my head. Now I'm on the journey, and what did I just encounter? What the heck was that? Because I got to find an answer, because that was real. That was all too real, and it scared the ever loving crap out of me.
Okay, so that starts you on the journey because you realize that evil exists.
Yep.
And so when that happens, then that causes you to question the other side.
Yep. Everything.
Wow.
And I didn't have a context for God. I didn't know who he was. So it turns out that my family was moving to New Mexico to start a horse ranch. Well, like I said, you go home on the weekends. I needed a place to go home to. So it turns out that a family friend who just so happened to be my English teacher at the school said she can come stay at my house. And so I go to stay at her house, and she's one of these Christians. And I knew she was religious at the time, but she's one of these, like, she actually believes the Bible. Are you kidding me? Okay. Don't even talk to me about God until you can prove he exists. I questioned. I wanted her to fail. I wanted her not to be able to answer, but she had an answer for every question. Her, and so I'm literally kind of going, but what about evolution? What about this? What about that? And she's like, well, and I even went so far as, well, there's people that believe in aliens. She's like, so do you think aliens? I'm like, I don't know. I'm just asking the questions.
So you were
And
fighting it.
so, yeah, I was fighting
Yeah.
it tooth and nail.
Wow.
Okay. And then she went and took me to a Christian music store one night. And I was a country girl. I grew up country. Um, and I mean like 90s country, Garth Brooks, George Strait, Reba McEntire, that crowd.
Oh yeah.
Okay, okay. Not the new stuff out today. No, I don't get into that.
I'm with you. All right.
So, so I'm listening to some of this music, and I'm not, no, 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 blah, blah. And then I run across Stephen Curtis Chapman, Speechless. And I'm listening to this song, and for the first time, I understood what the gospel was.
Wow.
Oh, okay. I understood what the offer was. And I had to really wrestle through it and think on it. I didn't make any decisions right then. Because, my friend also, had me attend a Sunday night Bible study, and where she laid out the gospel, again. But I was still kind of, I don't know. So what? I just say, what do I do with this?
Right.
And I end up going to New Mexico, and I'm reading a book in Braille. It was the Left Behind series, and I honestly thought that was an interesting bit of fiction. Right, Jesus is gonna come back and take all the do-gooders away. Okay,
You were a skeptic. All right.
very much so.
Yeah.
Okay, and so I'm reading through this, and I'm going, and I asked my mom about this book, right? And she's like, no, yes, has so and so been teaching you religion? It's come up. I don't appreciate that. I taught you about God. I'm sure you did, but I don't think it penetrated anywhere. And so I'm kind of filtering through. I was listening to Coast AM. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Oh, yes,
Okay, so
I
I
am.
had that on, because I'm trying to figure out what the heck I'm dealing with here and what the heck I encountered. So I'm listening to that, and then I'm listening to Christian radio on the other end, and I'm trying to figure things out. And I'm just like, pause that. Hang on. I thought I put that on. So I have Coast to Coast AM on one hand, and then I'm listening through Christian radio on the other hand. As far as mom's concerned, I'm listening to music playing Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. That's all she needs to know.
Right.
You know, and so I run across Night Sounds by Bill Pierce. It's a late night radio. I think it's still playing. And he does his show, and he's like, I'm talking to someone who's heard this message before. And he lays out the gospel again, and then he goes, why not give it a shot? What do you have to lose? I turned off the radio, I got on my knees, and I did business with God. And
Hmm.
I just told him, all right, I believe you are who you say you are. I believe you are the Son of God. I believe I'm a sinner. I believe you died on the cross for my sin. And I'm going to follow you. I knew that something had changed. It didn't mean my life got a lot better. Actually, it got a heck of a lot worse because I was now the only Christian in my family.
That had to be tough.
Well, yeah, considering that my mom was like, I don't want you pushing this religion, and she got so angry at the teacher that she pretty much said, "I'm gonna be she is never to contact you again." And then I found out that she tried to call the school and get her written up and get her in trouble.
Wow, nice.
Yeah, so
My
I mean,
goodness.
and honestly, but I can honestly say that God has been faithful. You know, I had to learn to walk with him. I did not have any kind of discipleship um for the first year of my walk. I didn't even get my first Bible on my own for the first year. So I really leaned on Christian radio to discern what is my faith? What
Hmm.
do I believe? What does this mean?
Interesting. Christian radio. Okay.
Yep, yep.
And yeah, yeah, so you get a lot of your messages that way. It sounds like through Christian radio and through music and things like that. You're very
Oh
plugged in.
yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, God knows how to reach us, that's for sure.
Amen.
When he's
Yes, he
trying to reach
does.
us. Yeah,
Yeah,
100%. Yeah, I love
you
that.
know, but that's honestly, I mean, my journey from there has been kind of crazy, because I've still seen a lot of stuff. It doesn't mean a lot of people think you become a Christian, everything just suddenly goes great. No,
Right.
no.
Jesus is not an easy button,
Uh,
for sure.
exactly,
Yeah, right.
exactly.
You're right.
You will have trial and tribulation, but rejoice, I've overcome the world. Yeah, that's kind of, I think, a promise he gave.
Right. Absolutely. So that's what the book is about.
Yep,
That's coming out soon, and
yep.
that's amazing. I'm looking forward to reading that. The podcast then, Unresolved Life, is your story, like you're telling us right now, and what you've been through.
Yeah, so
Okay.
what I do is I share parts of my story because there's a lot that's not in the book. So I share a lot of my story, but then I also interview guests and I let them share their story.
Oh, great. Okay, wonderful. The Equipped podcast.
hmm
That's interesting. So tell me
Yes.
what that's about.
Well, are we not living in the last days?
Mm, okay.
Okay. And if we're living in the last, I believe we are living in the last of the last days. And so our heart with that show is to equip believers on how they should live and operate in this time.
Yeah, I mean, because that's the saying is that God doesn't call the equipped; He equips the called.
hmm
Okay,
and so we are actually working through, we talk about a lot of things that people may misunderstand. And so we talk about things like spiritual warfare, which, by the way, is a thing,
sure, sure.
absolutely is a thing. Believe me, I've had my encounters.
My goodness.
I have had my encounters. And so we talk about things. And one of our biggest things is, look, first of all, if when you bring someone to Christ, then you need to disciple them. You need to show them what it looks like to walk with him. And that doesn't mean just tell them to go to church. It means you actually start doing life with them. Help them learn how to walk with God on a daily basis. Okay. Number
Yes.
two, you need to teach them spiritual warfare. The fact is, you're now on a battlefield. And most Christians, they're buck naked out on a battlefield with arrows sticking out their back, and they wonder why their life is jacked up.
That's quite an image.
And you
Okay.
want, well, because they haven't put on the armor of God,
Right. Right.
you
And this
know?
is,
And so,
go ahead, please.
yeah, this is all the stuff that we cover on Equipped.
Got it. If you don't mind me asking, and if you can give me, maybe a shorter version of the answer, but why do you believe that we're approaching end of days?
Why is there so much craziness happening in the world? I mean, even since January, things have accelerated to such a clip, you can barely keep up with the headlines.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
I don't know if we are for sure at the end of days. I believe we are, because Jesus says there's going to be wars and rumors of wars, earthquakes in various places. Nation will rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom. And by the way, that kingdom actually mean or that what one of those, either nation or kingdom, actually means ethnicity. Will rise against ethnicity. Okay. I believe that he is coming soon. And whether he is or not, we should live like it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with that 100%. I was just curious what your viewpoint was on that. Yeah. Okay.
I'll say this. I don't believe into the pre-trib rapture. I do believe there will be a rapture, but I think whether it's pre-trib, mid or post, I'm more of a pan-tribber, meaning it'll pan out however God wants it. Until then, I've got work to do.
Right. Wonderful. Okay. And that's what that podcast is. It's basically spurring people on to do the work.
Absolutely.
Love it. Love it. Okay. Well, if we maybe we should lighten the mood just a little bit and tell me
Absolutely.
about this Blaze and Gutch.
Okay. Well, okay. I wanted to do something a little bit fun.
Okay.
And I am a football fan.
Right
I'm
on.
an NFL fan.
Good for
I
you.
don't like some of their garbage, but I absolutely love the sport.
Who's your team?
Arizona Cardinals.
Oh my goodness. Well, I won't hold that against you, but go ahead.
And who are you for?
I'm a Bears fan. I've been suffering a long time.
Hey, I understand suffering. Look at what we're dealing with.
Yeah, 100%. And at least my quarterback's taller than 5 feet. So, I mean, I think we're a little better shape. But
Ah, God. Yeah, well, at least, I'm just hoping my quarterback can throw consistently. That's all.
right. And anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I apologize. Congratulations on loving the Cardinals. Tell me
Um,
tell me about the podcast. So you
well,
love
so I
football.
yeah, I love football, and I have a really good podcasting friend of mine um that we actually produce her show for her. And she is a Kansas City Chiefs fan. And we both like the Denver Broncos because I grew up a Broncos fan as a kid.
Okay, the Broncos I can get behind. The Chiefs are just no, that's just wrong. That's just wrong. No, 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 no. Yeah.
I will just have to tell her you said that.
Oh my goodness. Let her know that this old podcasting guy you were talking to was a Bear fan said the Chiefs are just wrong. All right. Anyway, so that this
Well,
you,
so
you and your friend.
I got this harebrained crazy idea. Hey, why don't we, you know what? We both love football. We keep talking about football and we keep ragging on the teams when they do something stupid or, whatever. And so why don't we do a football show together? Oh, and by the way, let's highlight the Christian players that live their faith on and off the field.
Oh wow. Now that's an interesting aspect to it. I like that.
Yeah. And so
Wow.
what we do is we talk about all three of the teams, Cardinals, Broncos, and Chiefs. That's who we highlight. But we also cover NFL news that really pops out.
Hmm.
Okay, and
Interesting.
because we don't have the time to cover the entire NFL. I wish we did, but we don't.
That's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's always something, and so we don't, and so what we do is we highlight a player. From all of the teams, we highlight a player. We tell his story, and yeah, that's basically what that show is. We've been doing it for about 3 years, or I think we're about to go into year four.
Interesting. Good for you. That's awesome.
And it's a seasonal show because, well, NFL season,
Right. Unless you're
and
talking about the
believe,
combine and stuff. Yeah, I would say.
yeah, there is that. Yeah, but I mean, honestly, it makes it so much fun because I will, I I buy the NFL, what do you call that thing? The one that lets you listen to all the audio streams.
Hmm.
And so I do that because that
Sure.
way I can listen to all the games. It
Yeah.
means I got to listen to 2 or 3 games in a Sunday, but hey, I'm okay. That's it's fun work to me.
Right. Well, it's nice to love your work like that. That's great. All right, so you have four podcasts that are rocking out here.
Yep, I've got the Unresolved Life, Equipped, Blazing Guts, and then I've got the Teresa Blaes Show, which is where I cut my teeth on all things marketing, faith, business, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a minute because that's actually where I found you was on the Teresa Blaze show. And I mean, you cover a lot about business and entrepreneurship and everything on that show.
Yep. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I gotta actually figure out when I'm gonna bring that one back because I've got a lot to say, but I was like, all right, Lord, when?
When are you going to find
Uh,
time for that, right? Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I really want to bring that one back, but I've got to figure out the timing, but he'll show me. But yeah, that's where I really and truly believe that you can have your faith in what you do, in mix with your business. Your business can be your ministry. Um, I truly believe that, and I live it.
That's great. I mean, one of the things that I picked out of your bio also that I thought was very interesting as I was listening to the Teresa Blaze show was um, you had I don't know I think it was a quote, but it might have just been one of those ideal lines. But one of the things that you said is why it's biblical to have an entrepreneurial spirit.
Hmm.
So I'm curious as to why, in fact, you believe it's biblical to have an entrepreneurial spirit. I think it's awesome, but I just want to hear what you have to say about
Well, let's think about. All right, there's a few answers. First of all,
it. Okay.
in Proverbs, Proverbs 31, it talks about the woman who is industrious.
Hmm.
Okay,
Okay.
she sells her cloths. She does this. She does that. Right. In Ecclesiastes 11:7, I think it is. I might have the address wrong. It says you should have 7 sources of income, even 8, because you do not know what disaster will befall the land.
Hmm.
Next, if you look at Christ's disciples, every single one of them was a businessman. Every single one of them.
Hmm. That never
And
occurred to me.
okay, well, think about it. Judas was a swindler, okay? But he handled the money. Matthew was a tax collector. He had fishermen. Well, what were fishermen? They were business dudes.
Yeah, they were independent contractors, really, back then.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And you could look at the other guys too. Okay. Then, if you want to move it a little bit forward, what was Paul? He
Uh, I,
was a
oh, go
Well,
ahead.
you've got Luke, who was a doctor. Oh,
Okay.
oh, that's right, another businessman. And Paul was a tent maker.
Tent maker. Okay.
So the Bible is full of men and women who ran businesses. And I believe rather than being dependent on a job that you hate, because yes, you should have a job, especially as a kid, maybe you're learning your work ethic, that kind of thing. But I don't believe you ought to have a job you hate. I believe that if the Lord has given you a calling and given you a business, do it with all your heart, because I believe that's biblical.
Wow. I love that. I never even paid attention to what the professions were of all those guys. That is such a unique perspective. I love that. Interesting. Very, very cool. Okay. Well,
What about David before he came king? He was a shepherd.
Shepherd. Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, all right. Well, I love that. And you certainly answered that one like with a thud. I mean, that was a mic drop right there. That was really nice. Good answer. I love that one. So the Teresa Blaes show, they're shorter form episodes,
Yes. Yep.
and you kind of come out and you give like a thought or maybe a piece of advice, that type of thing, and then sort of expound on it, and then you're done.
Yep.
So what is the benefit of that as opposed to like a longer episode in terms of
I
the way
do
you
have
do it?
Yeah, I do have some longer episodes. I do some interviews.
Hmm.
But it's kind of like, well, if I don't have interviews at the time, then I'm gonna have to create content, and so I'm always looking for ideas to create content around.
Sure. Okay. Well, nice. Do you find that the small ones, do they get like a better listenership because they're smaller and people can just digest them easier?
I think it's half and half.
You think? Okay.
Yeah.
Personally, I've never done the shorter episodes, so I was just curious how that was working for you.
You know what? I enjoy it because
Great.
you get in and you get out.
Yeah, that's true. You can probably get a lot more done that way, can't you?
You really can, and the best way to do it when you're doing those kind of shows is to batch them.
Oh, there you go. Okay. So you sit down and explain to everybody what batching means like that when you say it.
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Oh boy. Hello?
Yep. Can you hear me?
You're cutting out, dude.
Yeah. So like I was saying, I've never had the opportunity to really do those short ones, but I can understand the usefulness, of them, and explain to everybody though what you mean when you say batching them.
So if you're going to do a bunch of shows, so like for me, when I was doing the TV show, I started by doing, I was crazy enough to try doing one every single day.
Wow. Yeah.
That eventually went, nope, we're not doing that. So I backed down to once a week. And so what I ended up doing is I set a day when I know I have to create a lot of content. Um, it's a content day, so that means I batch about 4 episodes, and then I get them all off to my editor.
Wonderful. Okay. And so then that makes it a lot more efficient and easy for you to get a lot out.
Absolutely,
Good thinking. Good thinking. Let me ask you a couple of podcasting questions, if that's okay.
absolutely.
What do you guys do to promote your four podcasts that you have over here?
Well, it depends on which one we're doing. Guesting on other shows is really big for me.
Okay.
And I'm because allows me to get one. I'm able to find other podcasters that I can connect with and maybe do swaps with
Yeah, for sure.
for the different shows. Two, because I'm in the middle of a book launch, it helps me get word out about the book and that kind of thing. And then three, it really allows people to find my shows.
Nice. Okay. That's a great way to do it, of course. Yeah, absolutely.
Hmm.
Do you guys do social media stuff?
Yes, we do. I wouldn't say that's my strongest point,
Hmm.
but I definitely do social media.
Okay. Excellent. And have you found anything else other than social media and podcast guesting that works good for you?
Um, Not currently, but I'm gonna be trying to do some like short form videos.
Hmm. Okay. Awesome. And you put out audio and video episodes?
Yep.
Or just audio?
No, audio and video,
You do them both?
depending on the show.
Okay. Which show is not video?
Let me think. Well, we just moved on Unresolved to video, so I think it's um I think it's equipped.
Okay. All right, excellent. Just so that the folks know, if they're trying to find the video of that, then we don't want them to waste their time. It's like,
Yeah.
hey, go for the audio, then you'll find it. So that works out. But I love that. I love everything you have to do here. I mean, you've got some really awesome projects. I love your faith. I love your dedication, and you've got an amazing story. You've been through a ton, so my heart and prayers go out to you. But I love that you're telling the story to help other folks. I think that's amazing.
My thing is this. The calling that God has put on my life is to help people find God in their story.
Yeah.
I
You
mean,
you've
like,
said that. Yeah, that's
yeah,
amazing right there.
that to me is like, if I can help one person through this project, if I can help one person, I'm good. I'm just I really I want to hear well done, good and faithful.
Right.
And I know the best way for me to do that is to do the work that he's called me to do. And if that means going back, helping someone go back into even the darker portions of their past, whatever that looks like, and helping them see God in that portion,
Yeah.
then I'll do that. It doesn't matter how bloody, and it doesn't matter how cruel, it doesn't matter how dark the story is. I believe God was there. No, he did not cause it. Yes, there is evil, and there are evil men, and because we have evil, because we have sin, because we have all this ugliness, things happen, things that shouldn't happen, but still they happen. But I believe that God is in that story, and so my heart is this: let's find him together.
Beautifully said. I love your mission and I love your purpose. I really do. It's just amazing what you're doing. So keep doing
I absolutely
it.
plan to. That's why I'm a life coach. That's why I do what I do.
Okay. And you're a life coach too, on top of everything else. See, every time I think I know everything there is to know about you, I find out
uh
something else. Tell me about the life coaching. I didn't know you were a life coach. That's fantastic.
that just kind of, so here's the funny thing. Okay, this one just, God just kind of went, you're gonna do this, and I went, say that again a little more slowly, because I don't think
Okay.
I heard you.
Right.
um so at the time I was actually working with a client who was a life coach, and um she was doing a podcast, and we were helping her produce it and all that. Well, I'm a certified 100x coach through Pedro Adeo.
Hmm.
So I'm a certified, entrepreneur coach, kingdom entrepreneur coach.
Great.
And so he rolls out this life coach program, and so I'm looking at, I'm thinking, okay, well, look at this, and maybe God will, maybe we can learn how to market our client better. Uh-huh. No, it was to teach people how to become life coaches. And I'm listening to this, and Mike's going, Hang on, pause a second. No, I'm sorry, my daughter's. Can we? So I'm learning, okay, this is all about what it looks like to life coach someone. Okay. And then the Lord starts tapping me on the shoulder. I want you to do this. I am in no condition to life coach anyone. Are you kidding me? Uh, no, there is no one that's going to. And, but he wouldn't let up. And I'm like, all right, all right. And see, the thing was, okay, let me back up because this actually plays into this. Uh, my husband had gotten a job working for U-Haul at the time, and so he wasn't sure if he was going to be able to get the certification for 100x. So I had like a month and a half to finish up all of the training and get the certification. And I'm like, can I kill you now? You know, like, can I just kill you now? Okay, so I got it. I managed to get it, right? And then,
Congratulations.
and I'm like, okay, cool. I can see where this is useful. And so now I've done all the work for the life coaching. I just have to, I'm not certified under the life coaching piece yet, but I've done the work. I've got the hours in. I've actually got some people that have been able to help, which has been really awesome.
I
Um,
imagine that's very rewarding for you.
oh, it is. It is. When you
Wow.
find out that you help restore someone's marriage.
Oh my goodness. Yeah,
Yeah, that
that would
just,
have to be.
yeah. So, I mean, like now I'm just doing the final steps to actually getting the certification. And but I'm taking on life coaching clients, that kind of thing. So, it's just really cool what God has been doing.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And I'm not even surprised that you had one more thing that you're doing because, I mean, my goodness, you are just a fireball of doing everything under the sun here. Teresa, if people want to reach out to you, and I still have a few more questions for you, but if they want to reach out to you about any of this stuff, what's the best way for them to contact you?
You can find me on the socials, Facebook, facebook.com/Teresa Blaes. That's an easy way to get to me. You can email me. My best email would be Teresa@unresolved.life. Um, yeah, that's those are or you can find me on Twitter, Teresa Blaze 1 or X or whatever it's called nowadays.
Right. Exactly.
So I mean, yeah. Um, you know, and if you want to learn more about Protected, you can go to protectedbook.com. And what I've done there is I've actually put up a lead magnet with 3 stories that are not included in the book that you can get right now.
Awesome.
And
All right. A little
and
preview.
what yeah, it's a little preview. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to build my list and so that like I can start sharing what God has done.
That's beautiful. All right. I love that. Thank you for getting that in there because I didn't want to forget that as we go through. So let me ask you this. It's kind of like my corny question, sort of my thing that I try and include in every episode.
Hmm.
You have a lot of podcasts, obviously. So as you're doing podcasting, what is it about podcasting that you love the most? And what is it about podcasting that you just really and truly can't stand, would love to throw out the window and never see again the most?
Hmm. What do I love? I love the impact.
Hmm. Good
I
answer. I
love
like
the
that.
impact that I'm able to have. Um, what do I hate? I hate when you are going to get on a show, like, or when I hate being ghosted. Like someone just, oh yeah, no, they don't even show up and they don't communicate with you, and so you're going and you can't contact them because they didn't leave any contact information. Okay,
I understand.
or
Yeah.
on the other side, you go on a podcast and they don't even give you a recording link, and you're going, okay, what part of I'm coming on your show to record a podcast do you not understand?
Right. Gotcha. All right.
Yeah, I would say people
Yeah.
sometimes.
No, good ones. Good ones. I love it. All right, Teresa, as we kind of wrap things up here, let me ask you this because, again, you've been doing this for more than a minute and you have a ton of experience. So, to the podcasters that are listening to us right now, what is your best piece of advice to podcasters who are not quite where you are in the podcasting game?
Okay. What I always tell a beginning podcaster or someone who's not as far along or whatever, I always tell them, especially when they say I don't like how I sound. My answer to that is embrace the suck factor. When you first start out, you're gonna suck. It's just how it works. You're going to suck. You're not going to sound good. You're going to stumble over your words. You're not going to be comfortable on the mic. That's okay. Get it out of your system. Get it over with. No, you're not going to have the numbers when you first start out. Good, because you don't want that numbers right now. You want to get the suckiness out of your system first so that you can start finding your voice.
Beautiful. I'll get the suckiness out of your system first and then get the numbers. That makes really good sense. I like that. That's perfect. That is perfect. All right, wonderful. Teresa, you're an inspiring person. You really are. And I love everything that you're doing here. I love your message. And, I love how it all comes back to your faith. Um, I- Thank you so much for sharing what you have today, sharing your story, putting this out, and for what you continue to do every day with your shows and just with your purpose. It's really amazing. It's been a pleasure to get to know you today.
Well, it's been an honor to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
No, you got it. And you're welcome back anytime. So I hope you'll come back again and tell me about your
Absolutely.
journey. All right. Like maybe when that book comes out and it's it's published.
You know what? I would absolutely love to do that. I would love to do that because, yeah, I'm really, really looking forward to having that assignment done.
I get you. All right. That sounds awesome. And then maybe in football season or something, we can, talk about the Cardinals and the Bears.
I'm pretty sure we might make an arrangement for that.
That sounds great. All right. Teresa, thank you. I appreciate you.
All right, thank you.
All right. Folks, it's been another absolutely wonderful and inspiring episode of the Podcaster Nation. This is the podcast that's about podcasters. It's for podcasters and it's done by podcasters. And today's podcaster did not disappoint. If we have not shown it to you before, I know we showed it to you today, but this truly is the place where the rising tide raises all ships. So keep sailing.